the paper by Shefali ji. Shefali ji's paper was scheduled for yesterday, and we had to reschedule the paper for today because of her other engagements. Now, Shefali Vaidya ji is going to present her paper on the Ganesh festival and the environmental aspects in the Ganesh festival. The mango leaves, Mogra, and Matoli nature worship during the Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa is the title of our paper. Shefali ji is again one of our celebrities, star figures. Uh, she is very popular already as a public intellectual, very vocal, very articulate on all the Indic themes. She has a huge following as a public intellectual, and every time she comes with sensational discussions and contributing papers. I welcome Shefali ji for another such scintillating paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nagaraj-ji, though I'm not sure whether I'm worthy of the introduction that you've given me, but it's always a pleasure to participate in Indica conferences. And every time I participate, actually my own learning curve becomes so much sharper because there is so much that I get from other speakers. Now that I have heard Abhijit's and Rashmi's presentation, I really wish I should have stuck to my time slot of yesterday, because these are big shoes to fill. To follow after them, and that presentation was really amazing. But in a way, I'm grateful that my presentation is scheduled after it, because my presentation is in a way a kind of a carry forward of the thought that was put forward by Abhijit and Rashmi. So I'm going to talk about the eco tradition of Ganesh Utsav in Goa, my native state, and the place where I grew up in. So nowadays you hear a lot about how Ganesh Chaturthi and Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations are harmless to the environment. And every time Ganesh Chaturthi comes, you have these so-called environmental activists writing reams about how we are polluting our water bodies, how we are, not being eco-friendly by doing Ganesh Chaturthi. And they're trying to guilt Hindus into believing that our festivals are the ones that are actually destroying environment. But this is so far from the truth, because I grew up in a place where Ganesh Chaturthi is still today the biggest festival of Goa. And everything from the preparations to Ganesh Chaturthi, to the food that we eat, to the rituals that we incorporate, are in some way very intricately connected with nature even today. So this presentation is going to be about that. In a way, Abhijit and Rashmi talked about how our concept of treating everything as sacred is, the whole sthala is sacred. So in that sense, Sri Ganesh is the lord of the biosphere. He is the lord of the entire sthala of Goa. And that is why when he is worshipped in a way that almost every aspect of the rituals that are related to Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa, they incorporate at least some element of nature worship in them. I'd request Sriniji to play my presentation, please. So the title of my presentation is Mango Leaves, Mogra and Matoli. These are the three integral elements that are needed for the Ganesh Chaturthi puja. Mogra not so much. I put in Mogra just because of the alliteration. But mango leaves are much needed, Matoli is much needed, and flowers of different kinds are much needed, including Mogra. Next, please. I'm going to quote here from Lynn White. In antiquity, every tree, every spring, every stream, every hill had its guardian spirit. Before one cut a tree, mined a mountain, or dammed a brook, it was important to respect the spirit. Christianity made it possible to exploit nature in a mood of indifference, because Christianity believed that nature and the rest of the animal kingdom, animal flora and fauna, are basically meant for the human beings to exploit, to consume, and to enjoy as a resource. It was never perceived as we are also part of this greater cycle of nature, and therefore we are all connected, and therefore we must worship nature because it is very much a part of our being, which is the thought that our dharma has had right from the beginning. Next, please. So now we come to Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa. Abhijit and Rashmi have already briefly talked about other eco-traditions in Goa, like the Jayanti Puja or the Jasmine Puja in Martor, or the Mangyachi Puja in Fonda, which they've talked about in detail. There are many such eco-traditions in Goa, and every local feast or every local jatra will have its own eco-tradition, depending upon that local small ecosystem and how they need to protect it. But Ganesh Chaturthi is something that is celebrated all across Goa, and it is a very individual, family-centric festival. We don't have huge Sarvajanik Ganeshotsavs in Goa, so now they have started. So Ganeshotsav in Goa is a tradition where the entire family gets together. They go to their ancestral home in their village. This is a way to ensure that generations of the clan, of the family, stay together. And they go to their ancestral home. They stay there for about 1.5 days, 5 days, 7 days, depending upon what is your family tradition. Everybody gets together, everybody pitches in, everybody cooks together, everybody does puja together. So in that sense, it holds the entire extended family together. Goa has many eco-traditions as a part of the festival, but the biggest eco-tradition is Ganesh Chaturthi, easily. As I said earlier, Sri Ganesh is worshipped, earlier please, the earlier slide please. As I said earlier, Sri Ganesh is worshipped as the god of the biosphere. And these eco-traditions that we follow during Ganesh Chaturthi, they reflect our society's relationship with nature, which is never an understanding that nature is just a resource that is meant to be exploited. It shows that we are all part of nature, and that is why we worship Sri Ganesh. He is made from river mud, and then we offer things to him which are also basically sourced from nature. Matoli is a unique eco-tradition that's an integral part of Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations in Goa. Next, please. So now we go a little about the science behind Ganesh Chaturthi and why Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa is celebrated in such a way. Ganesh Chaturthi is a major festival in the rice growing region of India. And typically the monsoon cycle used to start in June, and people used to plant rice in June, July, August. Ganesh Chaturthi comes in the second half of August or in the first or second week of September. That is when the rice is just getting ready. It is not ready for harvest, but the plants are grown and it looks very green. Plants with foliage grow very fast during the monsoon, but the maximum growth occurs during the end of the monsoon in the month of Shravan. This coincides with Shravan with increased sunlight interspersed with rain, which is the ideal weather for luxuriant growth of the planted crops as well as the wild flora and fauna, wild flora. Ganesh Chaturthi was a worship of seasonal biodiversity in this period of luxuriant growth. This festival is also a means of transmission of traditional knowledge of local flora from one generation to another. This is how our elders passed on their accumulated knowledge of the plants. What are their uses? What are their medicinal uses? What are their decorative uses? What are their cultural significance? And they could pass it on to the next generation through these rituals. Next, please. So now we come to how green the Goan Ganesh Chaturthi is. Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa has always been a festival that celebrates nature. We didn't need any environmental activists to come to us and tell us that make your Ganesha eco-friendly. It always was eco-friendly. Every element of festivities is directly connected with nature. The murti was traditionally made by local murtikars from the sticky mud from local river banks, and that's where the Ganesh murti eventually was sent back after Visarjan. So basically the mud was taken from the river and it was returned to the river. So the cycle was completed. And they used natural colors, so it didn't matter. The colors would also disintegrate. Sri Ganesha's parents, Mahadeva and Gauri, that's Shiva and Parvati, are worshipped in the form of a coconut and a bundle of wildflowers in some place, or they are worshipped as images printed on paper in other places, both of which are biodegradable. Sri Ganesh is offered Patri and the leaves of 21 local plants that have medicinal properties. So there are specific 21 varieties of local plants, and their leaves are offered as Patri Puja, and it is one of the important upacharas when you do the puja for Ganesh Chaturthi. Other elements used in decoration are local flowers like water lilies, roses, mogra, jasmine, hibiscus, parijata, everything that is locally grown. Next, please. Now we come to Matoli, which is unique to that region, not just to Goa. Matoli is common in coastal Karnataka, in the Konkan region as well. But what is Matoli? A Matoli is a decorative canopy laid out over the Ganesh Murti, which is to be worshipped. The Matoli is decorated with seasonal fruits and vegetables, which are locally harvested and locally grown. And it shows, it also is decorated with wildflowers and wild fruits, which are easily found in the forests nearby. It showcases Goa's indigenous plant diversity, and the emphasis is on medicinal plants. Wild and cultivated leaves, flowers, fruits, and vegetables decorate the Matoli. And there has to be one coconut somewhere tied in the Matoli, and the outer layer of the Matoli is decorated with mango leaves, which are supposed to be purifying the atmosphere. The picture that you see on the right is a very decorated Matoli, because nowadays the government has started having Matoli competitions and people go out of their way to make huge decorative Matolis. But basically, in its base form, a Matoli is a wooden canopy that is decorated by whatever is locally available, whatever is easily available, and something that has a medicinal use that has a cultural significance. Next, please. So what are the contents of the Matoli? This is how a normal Matoli would look like. So Matoli consists of all the local seasonal fruits, vegetables, and flowers. Now you see some apples in this picture, but traditionally you are supposed to have only something that is grown locally. Apples and oranges and santras were not a part of Matoli when I was growing up, but now of course everybody has started using them. Traditional Matoli consists of fruits like coconuts, jackfruit, guava, breadfruit, custard apple, betel nuts, grapefruit, vegetables like banana flowers, pumpkins, local ladyfingers, local cucumber, and different type of gourds. Local wild berries, they are known as, I'm only going to give the Konkani names like matlo, kanglo, kanna, katre. Flowers and leaves include matolichi phula, suparichi phula, and mango leaves, as you can see. It is a very vibrant and colorful decoration that basically is a signal to the people, to the bhaktas of Sri Ganesh, saying that he is the god of the biosphere, and this is how we should worship him. He has given us, he is responsible, his grace is responsible for the abundance of biodiversity and for the abundance of natural products, and this is what we offer to him again as our offering. Next, please. So this is the Patri offering. It's just a very beautiful photograph. So what are the leaves that are offered as Patri? We'll see in the next slide. Next, please. So we see bale fruit, which is good for diabetes. Then we have holy basil, that is tulasi. Then we have arjun. Then we have aghado, that is prickly chaff. We have rui. Then we have people leaves, zayo, that's jasmine. We have hato, that is pandanus. Then we have shami, then we have kumeri, then we have karveer, that is nerium, then we have pomegranate, dalim leaves, then we have Vishnukranta, Dhatura, Durva, then Agastipatra, Mako, Parijat, Malati Patra, and Maruak Patra, all of which have some kind of medicinal use. And that's why these flowers and fruits are used in our diet as well as in puja. And these leaves are considered especially important for Patri Puja, and you have to have these leaves. Next, please. Then we come to a special ritual, which is a part of Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations on the Panchami day. It is something known as Navanchi Puja, which means the puja of the new rice grains. During Ganesh Chaturthi, as I said earlier, new rice grains are just getting ready. They're not ready to harvest yet. Harvesting happens around Dashera time, but now they're getting ready. And if you open the sheaves, then you can find that rice milk. So at this stage, these grains are offered to Sri Ganesh and in a separate ritual known as Navanchi puja. A few sheaves of new rice grains are brought in from the rice fields. Earlier, everybody had their own rice fields. So they would simply go to the rice fields and cut a few sheaves and offer it to the Murti. Nowadays, of course, a lot of rice field land in Goa is being converted to NA and is being sold. So the area under rice cultivation is shrinking, sadly. So that is why now you have commercially available. There are people who get these new rice sheaves and sell them in the market, and many people buy it from the market, or they go to. When I was a child, I used to go just right outside my village. There used to be rice fields. It used to be cultivated. So my brothers and I, we used to go there and we used to get these rice sheaves. And there was this ethical component also, because this rice fields didn't belong to us. So every time we picked up one sheaf, we were supposed to leave some money there in the rice fields as a compensation to the farmer. It was a ritual offering, but the point is, even now people do that. So the puja is performed on the next day, on Panchami day of the new rice grains. As a proper puja. All Shodashopacharas are offered to the new leaves. The Naivedya is offered to it also. And this puja takes place on the second day of Ganesh Chaturthi. And after that, the worshipped sheaves are tied on the main doorway of the house as a toran. One sheaf is put into the family well, so that the water supply to the family would remain. One sheaf, which is consecrated, is put on the roof of the house. This is to ensure that the household has a continuous supply of fresh grains, and this is to ensure that prosperity during the harvest for the family, for the surroundings, for everyone. Sarve Sukhina Santu. Next, please. Now we come to eco-traditions in Naivedya. As we all know, that Naivedya is a ceremonial food offering that is offered first to God during puja, and then it is consumed by all of us. During Ganesh Chaturthi, mostly everything that is cooked in Goan homes, everything that is cooked, eaten, and offered to the gods is locally grown, mostly. The first day of Ganesh Chaturthi, that is the day previous to Ganesh Chaturthi, the Trayodashi day, is dedicated to Gauri, that is Parvati, Lord Ganesha's mother, who is believed to be pregnant that day. So it is believed, it's a very beautiful, very quaint belief, that on that day she craves for a vegetable that is local and leafy, and she wants it without salt. So she is offered a special vegetable known as Panch Panachi Bhaji, made from 5 leafy greens cooked without salt. And these 5 leafy vegetables used are red amaranth, which is known as Tamdi Bhaji in Goa, Malabar spinach, which is known as Valchi Bhaji in Goa, moringa leaves, that is the Maskasango, colocasia, that is alu, and hog plum leaves. In some other places, they use locally available seasonal greens like the taikira also. Next, please. Then we come to other typical dishes which are offered to Sri Ganesh in the Naivedya thali. These include ambade, that's hog plums, and a particular kind of chutney is made from them. Then local alsande, which are black-eyed peas which are grown in Goa. Even today they are considered as a delicacy. And mugaga tea, that is sprouted moong dal curry. And a very popular dish of the day is something known as khatkate, which is like an avial, if you're familiar with it. That is a mixed vegetable stew prepared from 21 local vegetables like radishes, snake beans, breadfruit, raw bananas, ridge gourd, ambade, and many more. And that khatkate has to be prepared as a Naivedya item at least on one day. Next, please. Then we come to the best part of the Naivedya meal, that's the dessert. So patoli has to be there on one day as a Naivedya offering. And patoli is a very typical Ganesh Chaturthi dessert. It consists of rice flour paste, which is laid flat on a turmeric leaf, and it is filled with coconut and jaggery and elaichi. And that is the turmeric leaf is then closed, and then the entire dish is steamed. And this, while it is steaming, it gives a very delicious fragrance, that is a fragrance of good elaichi as well as turmeric leaves, and it is considered to be a delicacy. Interestingly, this same dish is offered in Odisha It's called Enduri Pitha, if I'm not mistaken, and it is offered on Jeshta Panchami or something, where they do the puja of the oldest child in the family, and at that time, this particular dish is a must there in Odisha. I always used to think that this is a dish that is very, very popular only to the west coast of India, and it's popular only in Goa, Konkan, and Karnataka. But turns out it's not. Another popular dessert is sanna, which is an idli-like steamed snack of fermented rice. It is cooked in special containers, which are locally made by the ladies of the house from jackfruit leaves, which are always plentifully available, and they are eaten with sweet coconut milk. Next, please. So this is about the different kind of eco rituals that are associated with Ganesh Chaturthi. Now we come to something called Matoli Market, which is something very unique to Goa. See, earlier the elders from each family would go to the nearby forests and nearby wild areas and collect all the items available for Matoli or needed for Matoli themselves, and they would take their children with them, and they would, that was the way that they would pass on the knowledge. But now, because of increased urbanization, not everybody has the time or the inclination to do that, and also because Goa has become so urbanized that forest areas are actually shrinking. So that is why it's more difficult now to get these things easily. So that's why Matoli markets have come up, where you can see a picture where the tribals and people from small villages, they go to the forest and they collect the produce and they sell it in big markets like in Banastari, like in Panji, like in Madgaon, to devotees who will buy them. So these markets provide good employment opportunities for locals and tribals. The Banastari Matoli market is one of the oldest and biggest in Goa. And in recent years, Matoli markets, but the sad part of it, because there is so much of demand now, and now everything is done for commercial purpose. Earlier, people used to go to the forest and pluck out maybe one or two bunches of flowers or fruits that they needed. But now, because they're selling, they have caused indiscriminate harvesting of rare wild plant species. They just pluck everything and offer it for sale because that gets the sellers more money. So that is one of the unfortunate side effect of over commercialization. Matoli was once a cultural practice meant for honoring the biodiversity of the region, and as a concept, it is something very precious and it is something really wonderful. But indiscriminate competition has resulted in Matoli becoming exploitative, because now the focus is on building a bigger, better, more crowded Matoli, and that is why everybody wants every kind of fruit and vegetable that should be there on their Matoli, even when it is not easily available. And if it's not easily available, then obviously somebody is going to get it for you. And if somebody is going to get it for you, it's going to exploit the natural resource. Next, please. So we need now once again to go back to sustainable matolis, like you see in this picture, which is a simple matoli that you see in most Goan homes even today. Like this is a matoli that you can see in our home, where the decorative canopy is sparsely decorated, but it is decorated with things that are easily available, that are things which can be cultivated or which are easily available in your own backyard. It doesn't have too much of plundering of the wild resources. So yesterday the concept of elders of the family providing informal education to the future generation, this is the model that we should be coming back to, and education should take priority over competition. While competition is nice and you see a lot of beautifully decorated matolis every year, but every year it is basically depleting the natural resources, wild natural resources of Goa. Dr. Nandakumar Kamath has done a lot of work on this subject, on this Matoli. And he is of the opinion that Matoli at some point of time should be decorated only with fauna that is easily cultivated and easily replaced, and not by depleting the wild flowers and wild fauna of the forests. I really hope that we go back to the spirit of the eco traditions that were observed during Ganesh Chaturthi, and not get into the spirit of blind competition, and understand the thought behind each of these rituals and go back to it. We do not need some Western environmentalists to come up to us and tell us that, this is the way you should celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. If we want to be really eco-friendly, if we want to be really sustainable, quote unquote, all we need to do is to go back to the ways our ancestors celebrated festivals. And the way I see it, Ganesh Chaturthi in Goa was a very beautiful eco festival. Let's go back to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shefali ji. As always, that was visually rich, as somebody visually appealing. Atullah Udut Sathe is saying it is a visually appealing presentation, a wonderful analysis, and you are highly balanced in your analysis when you are saying that nature depletion is also a side effect of this over religious curiosity, excitement, that excitement and population explosion also. This urbanization and a new curiosity, modern curiosity into the traditions, it is creating a pressure on nature. And the tribal sellers are also, they look for their own market. And Prasanna Kumarji, Dr. Prasanna Kumar, our inaugural address speaker, our inauguration speaker, is observing that clay would have been a better word than mud.
I agree.
Yeah, he comments, and he is also remembering his own experience with the Matoli, roof that is made. That is called Palavelli in Telugu. In the Telugu speaking states, it is called Palavelli, and Palavelli translates into Milky Way. Milky Way is the word used for the visible galaxy that we are able to watch during the night. And the word Palavelli and the visible galaxy, Milky Way, the word being used for this is showing that it is actually cosmos that is being put as a roof. So it reflects that cosmos, and the boxes that are actually resulting in the frame of the bamboo sticks that we are able to see in the Matoli frame roof. They are actually the star constellations and the cosmic star world that we are keeping, and he is the Brahmanda Mandala Adipati, Ganesha. So that Brahmanda is being shown through that frame, and that word Palavelli is very popular in the market. When people go to buy this in the Telugu speaking states, they ask for Palavelli. Please give me a Milky Way. That is there. So
this is a very interesting aspect, and I'll definitely research more on this, and I will see that in Konkani are there any equivalent legends or stories related to this. This is something that it's a very interesting thought. I'll pursue this further.
Yeah, it is Velli is actually flat, literally flat, but it is the word for the Milky Way. So actually the buyer is asking the vendor to sell him a Milky Way, and this bamboo frame is given as the representative of the Milky Way. And Ekavimshati Patra is the word that is used during the puja. Ekavimshati Patrena puja.
Yes, 21. Yes, 21 leaves.
And the interesting thing is how ecological awareness is more with the villagers than the tribals than with the urban people. When these vendors, tribal and rural vendors on the street, they sell the Ekavimshati Patra, they are able to tell you which Patra is which. And the urban buyer, he buys all of them together without actually minding to know which Patra is which. And during the puja also, actually, he doesn't even remember which patra, which is Datura, which is Veil or whatever. So the mantra goes in one line, and the patra that is used and the mantra are not matching. They go in a different way. So the urban knowledge is actually ecologically distancing itself from the traditional ecological knowledge. Very interesting paper, Shefali. Dr. Prasanna Kumarji wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shefali ji and then Nagaraj ji. I've been working on this particular aspect of ritual and also the festival for the past 22 years with the schools and the colleges in both states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Lakhs of students are into this. In terms of the explanation that we give, there are places where we get the clay from the from river, but many times the clay is available in the tanks or lakes. So the clay from the lake is taken and given back to the same lake. That is the principle of the circularity of the work. In that, during August, when Shravan ki time mein, when you have this rain, the water bodies are full. So when the water bodies are full, you take the clay from the water body before it gets filled, and then there is a space created in the water body. And then after the water is given to the farm, to the agriculture, the water recedes, and then you can put back the clay. So that is one way of the circularity of the festival. And in terms of fetching these 21 types of leaves, when we are saying 21 types of leaves are to be used, then we are also saying that 21 types of plants are to be planted and protected, and the useful the twigs from there, the leaves from there have to be utilized, which would also bring to the concept of Vinayaka Vanam, where these 21 types of trees are planted, and then that is around the temple, or it becomes a part of the sacred grove. And then the explanation about the rat being controlled by a huge Ganesh is also to tell that the rat is something which needs to be controlled in order to have very good agriculture, very good farm produce. Rat is the biggest enemy of agrarian economy, so it is to be controlled. That is one thing which is also symbolic in this. If we are looking at these several aspects of this festival and their linking with ecology, the attempt by the latest environmentalists, to be put in quotes, to malign the festival of its environmental link is definitely deplorable, and it needs to be addressed straight away. See, partly because of the colors which they are saying. So the colors are a problem. When the colors are a problem, when you are immersing the idol, if you are not using those colors which are chemical or heavy metal based, then the clay which comes from the water body goes back to the same water body. So it's not an issue at all in terms of the difference it makes to the ecological balance of the water body. So yeah, it's an interesting paper, and nice to know that in Goa you have all these aspects of tradition, part of the religion and part of the folk practices. Similar thing exists across the country in small variations. Ganesha is considered as the first god, Prathama. That is what Nagaraj was saying, and this all is linked to the agrarian economy and agrarian work style. Thank you very much for your paper and for your detailed discussion on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prasanna Kumarji, for those additional points to that very interesting paper by Shefali ji, and another people are actually Prasad Bharat ji in the Q&A box is also saying that this should reach children, and we are also talking about, actually Dr. Prasanna Kumar ji has already worked on making this reach the children. There one point of observation that I have seen is the youngsters from the books are getting an impression that Ganesh festival has come from Balagangadhara Tilak. And Shefali ji made a very good point by saying that in Goa it's not that street procession or the public procession, it is a household festival. Actually, as Dr. Prasanna Kumar ji has rightly said, that household festival culture is the pan-Indian culture. What Balagangadhar Tilak ji, Lokmanya Balagangadhar Tilak ji has done is give it a political weapon, make it a political weapon during the national movement. That's all. That is the twist he has given, a useful twist as a nationalist political twist he has given. But otherwise, a pan-Indian household festival of tank clearing. Our irrigation traditionally was a tank-based irrigation. People have been talking the whole 2 days. They have been talking about how tank irrigation was very important. And here in Telangana, the Telangana government is reviving the significance of tank irrigation through a project called Bhagiratha project. And now people are realizing the dangers with big hydroelectric projects and creating big water bodies, and they are coming back. My professor J.S. Kulkarni from philosophy introduced us to an organization called PPST Foundation, which is an Indic organization working in traditional science and technology. And way back in 80s, they were working on tank irrigation. And Ganesh festival is a tank clearing festival also during the rainy season, the way Dr. Prasanna Kumar ji has explained. That expression, Shefali ji's paper, beautiful expression, Parvati is pregnant, is actually, it is the waters which are pregnant at that time. And all that, the beautiful poetic way of aesthetic way of looking at nature is all incorporated into festivals like Ganesh festival. These are part of fertility cults that are spread all over the world in indigenous and pagan cultures, but given different expressions. Our expression is Ganesh festival here, and that is what is very interesting. Thank you very much.